her last name, and no one's even talking about her. She's got people fooled because of where she comes from.
They walked in with muscles, experience, and attitude. No trash talk, no drama, just Muay Thai knees and bad intentions.
There's a club and a right hand.
The drama surrounding Dakota Ditcheva is that almost nobody saw it coming, not because the talent was hidden, but because the package it arrived in told a different story to anyone judging by appearances alone. 15 wins, 0 losses, 12 knockouts, an 80% finish rate, an average fight that lasts roughly a minute and a half. If you paid for 3 rounds of entertainment against Dakota Ditcheva, you are owed a refund for at least half of it. 8 opponents have walked into the cage believing they had the size, the experience, the credentials, or the reputation to change that pattern. All 8 walked out having learned the same lesson. The size of the beast does not matter. What matters is the size of the nightmare waiting on the other side of the cage. Her PFL debut tells you everything you need to know about who Dakota Ditcheva actually is. Most fighters treat a debut as a moment to play it safe, measure distances, feel out the atmosphere, adjust to new lights and new cameras in a new organization. Dakota figured all of that out in 90 seconds. Her opponent, Hasna Gabar, an Egyptian fighter undefeated as an amateur, was the designated test for a 24-year-old Brit the league was betting millions on as their next breakout star. In the next 30 seconds after Dakota worked out the room, she discovered that Gabar's jaw could not handle Muay Thai knees. Clinch, knee to the body, knee to the head. Gabar collapsed. First round, first PFL knockout, first warning to the entire division. The beast is not the one who looks bigger. The beast is the one smiling before she knocks you out. A debutante knocking out an amateur impresses no one for long. So 2 weeks later at PFL 10 in New York, Dakota faced Kathleen Coroinis, a professional with a real record and a real test of whether the Gabar finish was simply luck. It was not. Dakota came out with the same urgency, as if she had somewhere else to be. Jab to measure, front kick to the body for space, and then a combination of knees and punches that sent Coroinis into the category of opponents who probably should have read the fine print before signing the contract. 6th professional knockout, 2nd in PFL, 2nd in the first round. Analysts started asking the question that everyone close to Dakota already knew the answer to. It is not that her opponents are unprepared. It is that nobody is truly prepared for a woman who kicks like a middleweight while fighting in a flyweight's body. Then came the fight that proved Dakota does not simply knock people out. She finishes them however the moment requires. Critics had begun building a narrative against her, the same one used against every dominant striker until proven otherwise. She only has striking. Take her down and the fight is over. Her opponent, Swedish fighter Mathilda Hermansson, carried a 7-5 record and the kind of ground game that pure strikers typically avoid. Dakota did not avoid it. She took the fight to the ground herself, took Hermansson's back, and locked in a rear naked choke with the calm finality of someone closing a book at the end of a class, without asking for questions. First professional submission, first round, against an opponent with genuine ground experience. The critics had to update their narrative. She has striking and submissions, which for future opponents is not exactly an improvement. The next fight was different because, for the first time, Dakota had to wait. Cornelia Holm, a Swedish fighter with an 8-3 record, became the first opponent to survive 2 full rounds against Dakota in PFL. Not exactly a trophy, more a temporary extension of suffering. Holm weathered the storm, stayed on her feet, dodged the knees, blocked the combinations. Commentators began wondering aloud whether Dakota could finish someone who simply refused to fall in the first round. In round 3, Dakota switched targets entirely. She stopped hunting for the head and went to the body instead, landing a punch to the solar plexus, the exact spot the body uses to decide whether breathing is still worth the effort. Holm folded. Not a spectacular knockout, but a technical one, and the kind that proves Dakota does not just have power. She has target selection. If the head is not working, the body is always open. It is the fighting equivalent of finding the front door locked and discovering the bathroom window left wide open. 2024 arrived, and Dakota stopped making opponents wait at all. Lisa Malden came in from Texas with home crowd energy and every advantage that comes with fighting in front of your own fans. That advantage lasted exactly 1 round. Front kick to control distance, clinch to trap, knees to finish. Malden hit the canvas, and 5,000 miles from home, Dakota somehow made the Texas crowd cheer for the Brit who had just knocked out their hometown fighter, the rough equivalent in Texas of a foreigner winning a barbecue competition. Australian fighter Chelsea Hackett's best moment of the entire fight arrived at the face-off, because everything after the opening bell belonged entirely to Dakota. First round, knees in the clinch, strikes arriving from angles Hackett did not know existed. When the referee stepped in, Dakota took the microphone and delivered a line that went viral across the sport. A model just beat your ass. So shut up, delivered in a Manchester accent with the smile of someone who genuinely loves what she does. It became one of the most shared clips in PFL history that year because Dakota does not just finish opponents physically. She leaves them with a verbal souvenir that outlasts the bruises. Her next opponent represented the most serious threat yet on paper. Jenna Bishop, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, a no-gi champion with a 7-1 record and 4 submissions to her name, arrived with a clear and logical game plan. Take the fight to the ground, where her jiu-jitsu was elite, and submit the striker who critics still insisted could not handle a real grappler. The plan required one fundamental step: getting to the ground. And to get there, Bishop needed to pass through Dakota's Muay Thai knees, which is roughly the equivalent of crossing a busy highway with your eyes closed. Theoretically possible, but the odds are not in your favor. Bishop spent the round so focused on the takedown that she seemed to forget the woman across from her had already knocked out 11 people before arriving in that cage. The black belt never touched the canvas voluntarily. The only time she reached the ground was after Dakota's combinations put her there. It remains one of the cruelest ironies in the sport, spending years perfecting a ground game only to use it for the first time as you land from a knockout. Then came the final test and the biggest beast of them all. Tyler Santos, a Brazilian fighter and former UFC title challenger, walked in as the heaviest favorite Dakota had ever faced. Experts lined up to predict this would be her first loss, insisting that UFC-level experience simply could not be replicated by anyone in PFL Europe. The experts needed to update their models. Round 1, Dakota opened with immediate and relentless pressure. Front kicks, knees in the clinch, pushing Santos backward for what was reportedly the first time in years. Santos held on and stayed competitive, but the numbers and the eye test agreed completely. Dakota was winning clearly. In round 2, Dakota decided that winning rounds was not enough. A combination, right, left, knee, landed clean, and Santos wobbled. Dakota gave her no time to recover. Another flurry. Santos went down. The referee stepped in. Knockout, round 2 against a former UFC title challenger in Saudi Arabia for the World Championship and $1 million on the line. Santos walked in as the biggest beast in the tournament. She walked out as definitive proof that the size of the beast has never been the determining factor. At 26 years old, 14-0 at the time, holding a world title belt and a 7-figure check, Dakota looked into the camera with the exact same smile she wore before her first amateur fight at 15 years old. Because for her, nothing had actually changed. Only the numbers in the bank account and the belts in the closet. The girl from Manchester is still the same. The world has simply caught up to what that means. 15 wins, 0 losses, 12 knockouts, an 80% finish rate, PFL World Champion, PFL Europe Champion, and an average fight lasting under 5 minutes because Dakota Ditcheva never came to fight 3 rounds. She came to finish fights before the crowd could find their way back from the restroom. An Egyptian lasted 1 round. An American lasted 1 round. A Swede was submitted in 1 round. A Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt never touched the canvas on her own terms. A former UFC title challenger was knocked out in the 2nd round of a World Championship final. They all walked in looking like beasts. They all walked out looking like cautionary tales. And the difference between the two is a 5'7", 125-pound Brit with Muay Thai knees and a smile that says this is what she does for fun. It does not matter how big you are. It does not matter what your record says. It does not matter how many black belts or how much UFC experience you carry into that cage. Against Dakota Ditcheva, there have only ever been 2 outcomes: fall in the 1st round or fall in the 2nd. She does not look like a beast. She looks like a model, and that is precisely what makes her terrifying. Because the most dangerous nightmare has always been the one you never see coming. If this breakdown gave you a new appreciation for one of the most dominant young fighters in combat sports right now, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop in the comments who you think could actually give Dakota Ditcheva a real fight.